This is 3 a.m. Pillow Talk, and today we have Brett Zachman, creator of Be Extraordinary Gentleman, on. And I thought, with June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I don't think we focus enough on that. I think I want to learn everything about your organization. I want to learn everything about what you do. I want to learn what led you to doing what you did because I believe that all of us go through something at some point in life that sets us on a path. So, if yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, well, first of all, Kevin, man, brother,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you again.
Um, I probably a three-part, yeah, three-part thank you here. I mean, thank you for bringing me on as a guest on your podcast. That's obvious. But thank
Thank
you
you.
for doing what you're doing. Um, because as you and I both know, we talked just for a minute
Yeah.
and we're going to talk more now. This is too
Yes.
much of a rarity. Talking about male wellness, what I call
Yeah.
male wellness, right? It's not happening enough, and we're going to get into that. And then, kind of thank you to our entire community. What we've been painstakingly, slowly, blood, sweat, and tears, and irritation building over a decade of time because we're not talking about briefcases of cash and hot women and Maseratis, right? And making millions, all those sexy, cool, instant gratification type things. So I'm just stoked to be here and
Well,
and
I
and
appreciate
happy to
you
meet
giving
you.
me part of your Saturday. All right. So
All right. So where would you like me to start? You want me to start with why
I
did this
want
all come to
to,
be?
yeah, why don't,
Kind of the
so
evolution, or
let's,
what do you think?
so you're a creator of Be Extraordinary Gentleman. I want to know a little bit about you personally. What led you on that path? I believe everyone bumps into something, something
Yeah,
happens that leads them on whatever path they are. And there aren't a lot of people who actually go
totally.
down self improvement or go down trying to fix things paths. A lot of us, a lot of us as men,
That's
we
true.
self destruct on the inside. We go drugs, alcohol. We burn the world out around us, and not enough of us crawl out of that hole and try to take the next step. So I'd like to learn all about it.
Yeah, you're totally right. So be men, like BEMEN, that's simple, right? Textually, that's just be a man, right? Kevin, to any dude in America, just be a man, whether you're young, middle age, old age. Um, but beyond the textual call to action, like we've heard this all our lives, just man up. Like, what in the hell does that actually mean in
Yeah,
2025? Seriously. What, and you talk to 10 men, you'll probably get
yeah,
10 different opinions
yeah,
about what that means. And
yeah.
that's part of the confusion. So, and you're right, be a man acronym, but be, Brotherhood of Extraordinary Men. And then our tagline is gentleman,
Okay.
hero, warrior. Now, why is that? That sounds a little Hollywood. Intentionally, it's called marketing, and it's kind of real. Think back to when we were 6, 8, 10, 12. Gentlemen, like the way I described it to our graphic designers, it's kind of a fun little cute story, and I tend to tell stories. So a 25-year-old young man about 10, 12 years ago, and I said, Langston, build me a logo. He's like, okay, what's the direction? I said, Langston, I want you to think James Bond meets the movie 300 meets Batman Begins. And there's a long pause. And it's like those cell phone commercials. I'm like, oh crap, I lost him. I'm gonna have to call him back. And he's like, I got you, Zach. I'm like, okay, this is good. A short phone call. What do you got, Langston? He's like, I think you're talking about the gentleman, the hero, and the warrior, and all of us. I'm like, my work is done here, brother. You go to
Yeah.
work. Let me know what you got. So, so that's very straightforward. But here's what's not straightforward. I'm 54 on this call with you. I don't know your age. I bet
About
you're a little
49.
younger than me. So whether you're 20,
Yeah, I'm 49.
49, you got
I'm
some
kidding.
secret sauce. You don't look 49, brother. We're gonna have to talk
I
about
blame it
how
on the
how you're
weed.
holding up. Um, okay, okay. Um, whether you're 20 or 40 or 60, do you still have some gentleman in you? Or did you ever have gentlemen in you? Who were your models, your role models? Hero.
Yeah.
We all want to be a hero. When did that get kicked out of you? How many times did you get knocked down before you decided I'm not getting back up, or I'm getting halfway back up, or I'm I'm just not all in, right? And Warrior, like who we saving? There's a grocery store like what? Every
Yeah.
1.5, 2 miles. There's a liquor store on every
Yes.
other street corner. So hunter gatherer,
Yeah.
what are we hunting?
Yeah.
What are we gathering? Right? Um, and we've had the feminine movement, which had to happen. So
Yes.
we're going to get into that. But as women have evolved as they needed to, especially in the last 50 years,
Yeah.
where are men? And the answers, if you look at the statistics, is we're
May I
lost. We don't
interject?
know where we are
May I
or
interject
where
from
we're
that?
going.
So, so there's a,
Yeah, please.
yeah.
Let's just
So
chat
men's
about all
suicide
this.
rates are 4 to 1 of what women's are, and they compiled, they quantified all the data from the men that did leave suicide letters. The top phrase is "I am
Okay.
worthless." So men are feeling worthless. They're feeling left behind a bit. Yeah. So that is the
Ah,
top phrase
yeah.
out of all of them.
Yeah. So you said something before we hopped on here, and then I'm going to tell
Okay.
you how Be Men evolved. You said something that struck a chord for me that told me
Okay.
we're going to be lifelong friends. And we've only
Yeah.
known each other for
Yeah.
like 9 minutes. So I call them the three
Yep.
threes on our website. 1 in 3 women will report romantic partner violence, domestic
Yes.
violence in their lifetimes. We know that's a
Yeah.
shaming thing for women, which means it's underreported. How much we don't know. But my God, could it be as
Yeah.
high as 1 in 2? 1 in 2. That means you as a 40-year-old man, me as a 50-year-old man, every other
True.
woman we meet probably has a situation or an event or an
Yes.
experience she can tell you about, whether she reported anything or kept it to
Yeah.
herself as a secret all these years. That's ridiculous. And we say that's a women's issue.
Yeah.
Come on, fellas. You can't blame the victims
Yeah.
when we look at the stats, and 80+% of the time, it's a male perpetrating
Yeah.
against a female. And typically, it's not the
Yeah.
stranger in the woods, it's someone they knew, 1, 2, or 3 degrees of separation. So, how about let's call it what it
Yeah.
is? It's a man's issue. Okay, so there's that. Then we have National Fatherhood Institute, national organization out of DC, about a decade ago or so, put out a statistic. 1 in 3 kids are growing up with no active involvement with their
Yes.
biological dads. Now, that sounds like a strong statistic, but let's pause for a
Okay.
minute. I'm an econ guy. 1 in 3 kids in a generation is approximately 24 million children. Million. Let's just do hypothetical math, make this super easy because men are simple, right? We're the
Yes.
simpler side of the species. Let's just divide in half, 12 million girls,
Okay.
12 million boys. So let's create some stereotypes. Now we have 12 million girls who are destined perhaps to
Yep.
have daddy issues. And worse than that, or equally bad, with 12 million boys who have no idea what a dad looks like, talks like, acts like, behaves like, smells
No.
like,
Yeah. No
because he's just
male
not
role
there.
model in the home, for better or for worse, I guess.
Right. Now, let's be honest, you, me, we haven't had this conversation yet, but there are teachers, there are coaches, there are pastors, there's uncles, right? So there are ways
Okay.
to get male role models. However, if you're not a dad, okay, I'm around my coach playing football, what, 5 days a week for 2 months or 3 months of the year,
Yeah.
3 hours at a time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about the other
Yeah.
21 hours of the day? What about the other
Yeah.
9 months of the year, right? Or with teachers or pastors, all that. They're temporary. So you have temporary solutions to
Yeah.
a permanent problem. Because a dad, if he's doing it right, is literally there 24/7, 365 for a couple of decades. All right, so that's the other one. And then the last one you just touched on. When I went through divorce, this is
Okay.
what launched Be Men. I found out divorced men are 3 times
Okay.
sorry, let me try this again. Divorced men suffer suicide rates 3 times
Yes.
greater than married men. And I have a theory about that. The theory is that men from here to here, if you can see me pointing at my heart, this connection is either A, non-existent, worst
Okay.
case scenario, B, frayed, tattered, right? Or C,
Okay.
not real healthy.
Yeah,
It's a little anemic, right? Because we've been told, subtly or not so subtly, that emotions are a female thing.
yeah.
So we should just go from here.
You
Go
let's
ahead.
circle back for a minute to man up. So the term man up actually came from World War II, and it meant getting the pink. So so it's like
Mm,
we've got this. I believe that we have a generational problem. So the term "suck it
okay.
up" came from World War II. When a soldier threw up in his air mask, he had to swallow it and keep fighting. Was told to swallow that and keep fighting.
No shit.
Yeah,
That's
so
where that came from.
like it's horrible. Like I
Wow.
feel like it's a generational thing. But all right, I just want to say that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's a good point because, okay, so let's go back to who's teaching us
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be men. I'm 54. Why would anyone, male, female, kid, whomever, any human on the planet, think that Zach is a healthy, productive, grounded,
yes,
integrated man? Who taught him? Well, let's go schools. I took a lot of schooling. Grade school, middle school, high school, undergrad. I didn't go get a graduate degree. There was never a man 101, 201, 301 class, ever. I've never seen one. So they don't teach us in school. Okay, well, we don't have it there. Let's go to the church. Okay, I grew up in the church. I was Lutheran. I did everything. Vacation Bible school, you know, uh, Sunday school, catechism and confirmation. Like I had to study to become a member of the church. We had youth council that mimicked student council in high school. I was on that all 4 years. I was the
okay,
co-chair my senior year of that council. I went to 2 or 3 national youth gatherings where like 10 or 12,000 kids, teenagers showed up. Did they teach me how to be a man? I learned a lot of shame, blame, and guilt. I learned don't do sex unless you're married, and then only really do it
yeah,
to have kids. That's not helpful, right? That twisted my mind
yeah,
in all sorts of ways. Okay, so we don't have it in school. We don't necessarily have good things in church. Well, that's okay because we got the home. Well, we just talked about the statistics about
yeah,
fatherless homes. So let's say you have a dad. Okay, bingo. Kevin, you got a dad. You're in good shape. Okay,
yes,
tell me about dad. We've got one guy in our council. He'll tell you about dad being a
yeah,
raging alcoholic. That's okay. He didn't win the lottery because his dad's not going to be nominated for
yeah,
Father of the Year award. So, did you have a dad that taught you positive things, or did you have a dad that taught you all the things not to do and try and be
yeah,
180
yeah.
degree different from?
And a lot of
So, we are,
a lot of us don't.
yeah,
A lot of us don't do that one. So a lot of us, we grow up and we have a dad that is toxic, or we have a dad that's alcoholic, or he doesn't know how to express his emotions. We don't learn how to express our emotions, or maybe even at a young age, how to treat a wife, right? So, we grow up with
yes,
that, and then I think a lot of men that can, to an extent, you've got that story of the two brothers that had an alcoholic dad. One drank, and they were like, "Why do you drink?" He said, "Well, Dad drank." The other one didn't drink. And he said, "Why do you drink?"
yeah,
"Why do you not drink?" He said, "Well, Dad drank." So I think there's a lot of men that don't make that
right.
shift, that 180-degree shift.
Yeah, it's such a choice. And meanwhile, um, have you heard in men's work of the father
No,
wound?
I
Have you
haven't.
ever heard that term?
Explain.
So it's kind of a prevalent thing in men's work that's been going on. Mind you, I've been doing
Okay.
this 12-ish years. I know men who are in their 60s now, maybe even early 70s, that they've been doing this work quietly as their career for like
Oh,
three or
wow.
four decades. So the father wound refers to a wound beget by your dad, not necessarily physical abuse, sexual abuse, but just a wounding, right? So many times that could be mental, that could be emotional, that could
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
spiritual. The idea is this: whatever your dad said to you that might have been negative, or whatever your dad
Okay,
didn't say to you, or whatever your dad did in terms of actions that could have been positive, negative,
okay.
ugly, or
Yeah,
things he
yeah,
didn't do, right? Like I grew up, my dad, we're good friends, but my dad worked all the time. He wasn't really around. He was absent because he was a high school band director, so he's up before I woke up, worked all day, many times had sporting events in the evenings. came home, maybe even after I went to bed, had weekend events, right? So my mom raised me 80% of the time. So now you had a family who has a healthy dad, but the healthy dad's working based
Yeah,
on that generation. And now my mom is supposed to teach me how to be a man, which, ladies, I love you. Be men loves you, but feminine cannot beget masculine. You can't have a woman teach a boy how to be a man any more than a man can teach a daughter
absolutely.
how to be a woman. It just, that's why we're
Yeah,
supposed to do it together. So I can't blame my dad for the things he didn't know. To your point,
yeah,
man up, suck it up. Whatever
yep,
my grandpa knew is what he taught my dad, is what my
yep,
dad taught me. So I can't be 54 and go, well, I'm going on daytime television tomorrow, Kevin, because I'm going to rip up my father for all the shit he didn't know that
yeah.
he never taught me. Can you can't really
No,
blame him
no.
for that, can you? That's
Yeah, I
playing the
guess you
victim
can't. And
card.
a lot of times, yeah, you can't really blame them. It's a generational thing. And we still sometimes come from a weaker standpoint and try to blame. Or we end up, I think a lot of
Oh
men
yeah.
end up playing a lot of blame game stuff anyways when they're not, I got in a habit where I was blaming everyone around me for my life, for everyone around me for who I was. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think until you learn to take that accountability, you can't even be really a man. So,
I totally agree with that assessment. What we try to teach at Be Men, and it might sound
yeah,
harsh, and it's direct, and it's meant to be. Every man, no matter your age, you have 100%, not 50%, not 20%, not 75. You have
yeah,
100% accountability and 100% responsibility
yes,
for where you are in life. Now, you had a bad dad, back to the two twins, right?
yeah,
One drank, one didn't. It was just a choice, right? You had a bad wife. I got
yes,
divorced 20 years ago. Lovely mother, not a great wife. Thus, we got divorced. Can I blame her 20 years later for the fact that I don't have a healthy partner? No. I had an experience and it was a negative one. Now it's up to me to have awareness to decide what I want to do with that experience and if I'm going to grow or stick my
And
head in the sand, right? And if you're an a-hole,
do you think a lot of that comes down to
go ahead.
self-respect? Kind of
You
wanting.
know, it's interesting. I think that
Okay,
we're
yeah,
talking about
we froze up
change.
for a minute. Go ahead.
I I I think we're talking a little bit about change is my thought in that question, right? And to me, again, I just try to make things simple because I can't handle complicated. I'm a dude. So I think like two forks in the road. Yeah, option A or option B. Option A in change is you go
Yeah,
through something traumatic. So this isn't really about you. This is external trauma. Think car wreck. Think airplane crash. Think, in my case,
yeah,
divorce, right? Maybe a child dies. Maybe one of your parents dies. Something that you would never choose, that you had no control over, external factors, and suddenly you're in the crap. That can
yes,
create a lot of change because the hardship and the trauma and the drama and just the impact is so immense. You're like, I'm changing, or it's changing me. I think that can happen. The second option, I think, is even harder. It's nothing external. And you or I just wake up one morning and through an amazing amount of willpower say,
yeah,
God dang it, I don't, this thing or that thing or the other thing, or unfortunately, a bunch of things about me or
yeah.
my life I don't like, and I'm going to change me. That is
No,
not easily done.
yeah, it
Not
is
for the
not.
faint of
And
heart.
I tell you what, when I woke up one morning and I told myself, all right, so I'm looking at it like this. What if I had a friend and this friend would say, hey, we're gonna go to lunch at noon? Like, all right, and he stood me up, and then he says, okay, again, next day or next week we're gonna go to lunch at noon, and he stands me up again. How long is it gonna take for me to not respect that man? But how many that guy, that friend, but how many times do we stand ourselves up and we don't look at it that way? We have these ideals and it could be something as simple as not hitting the snooze button on the alarm. Like how many times can you stand yourself up
Yeah.
before you lose respect for yourself?
That is a great analogy. I might borrow that and
You
pay
can
you
have it for
royalties.
free.
That is awesome. I could have it?
Yeah,
Okay. That's awesome. And the answer for most guys is probably no
yeah,
more than three, right? You schedule it once and they have to reschedule, like, okay, stuff comes up. You schedule it twice, they don't show you, like, okay,
yeah,
now we're in the realm of flaky. We schedule it a third time and it's like, okay, first was a one-off, second one was perhaps a theme, third
yep.
one's a
And we
pattern,
don't hold
forget it.
ourselves
I'm out.
accountable the way we would hold someone else. So
No,
okay,
no, 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 no. We give ourselves
yeah,
get out of jail free
yeah,
cards all
and we
the
don't.
time. I mean, you're a big dude. You're a big dude.
Yeah,
I've seen your pictures. It's like June, how many guys? January 1st,
yeah,
right? That's the stereotype. Kevin, this is the year, buddy. I'm gonna look like
yeah,
you in 12 months. And meanwhile, you're like, no, you're not, because you weigh 180 pounds and I weigh 240. So the ability for you to put like 30% muscle mass on in a year or three is
yeah,
not gonna happen, dude. But they're like, yeah. And I hired a CrossFit trainer and I'm going 3 times a week for 90 minutes. And meanwhile, you're like, when was the last time you were in the gym for 90 minutes?
yeah,
Oh, 9 years ago.
yeah. And it's like they're
Yeah.
promising themselves something and
Yeah.
they're standing themselves up. So I don't. Yeah, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting how we don't take care of ourselves as men that way, and then it can branch
Oh.
out. I believe it branches out to we're not keeping our word with ourselves. We're not keeping our word. I mean, it becomes
Hmm.
easier to not keep your word out here in the world. With your woman, with your
Yeah.
family, with your kids, with your business partners, and I think it just starts on the inside and affects everything we touch. So that's my
Yeah. It's kind of the
yeah,
slow burn, right? Um, so you touched on not taking care of ourselves. So I've done this for 12 to 15 years now. And fellas, just to let you know, I don't think I've arrived.
yeah,
I don't think that exists. I think it's a lifelong journey
yeah.
if you choose to take it. And I don't have any answers after 12 to 15 years, but I do have questions. And what I think has happened is my questions are better now than they were 10 or
Okay,
12 or 15 years ago. So here's a question. When did wellness, taking care of oneself, become kind of a female thing to do? Like, and we'd have to ask the experts, the sociologists, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, like, when in modern history, at some point, did the idea of taking care of oneself become this gender thing that women do that because they're nurturers and it's feminine and blah, 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 and it's soft and caring and on, and men don't. And meanwhile, men are dying of
yeah,
prostate cancer when they don't have to. Men are dying of heart disease when they don't have to. Men are overweight for no other reason than lack of
yeah,
self-control and not eating right. And then you want to talk and brag even, yeah, I got 4 hours of sleep last night. I do that every night. Oh, that's awesome, Joe. You probably just
yeah,
shaved a decade
yeah,
off your life. How proud are you
yeah. That's
of
a good
yourself
point.
for that?
Yeah,
Like that's dumb. So, yeah, I love all this talk. So, B men started out of pain.
yeah,
Pain. Just flat simple pain, and we usually get asked in one of our workshops, like, is this how men have to grow? Do men have to have pain, or do men have to hit
yeah,
their version of rock bottom to
yeah,
start changing themselves? What we're hopeful for is the work in be men, like say it's a well. Like, do you have to fall down the well and go all the way to the bottom and literally break your back before you
right,
decide to crawl back out? And we're like, well, with B men, maybe we could create a safety net and catch these guys before they hit
okay,
their ultimate rock bottom. But I don't know. I'm not certain of that because so many guys, it really takes something dramatic. So for me, it was
okay,
separation and divorce. So 20 years ago, I just wanted to build the happy family, right? Like the commercial with the four bare feet, four sets of bare feet sticking out from the end of the bed under the comforter, and one's obviously male, one's obviously female, and the
yeah,
other two are little and cute. I was all in on that. I'm like, that, yep, right there. That's my idea of the good life.
yeah,
I didn't pick the right partner. And it's not her fault. I couldn't have. I wasn't a healthy enough dude at 24, and I didn't
yeah,
even know my own failings to have picked a healthy
yeah,
partner to last a lifetime. So I can't even really blame her. So
right,
10 years later, we divorced. And I do three of the top five most stressful things on any therapist list simultaneously. So, guys, if you're listening, I highly recommend you do not do this. Do not move out of your home. get separated and divorced from your partner, and launch your own
Holy
business
shit.
all at the same time. Because you're changing your living space, you're changing your primary relationship, and you're changing your career. Now, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to prove to everyone I'm a man. I'm going to do all these. No, for me,
Yeah.
it just happened that way. It was just happenstance. So I walked into the perfect storm, had no idea what I was walking into,
Yeah.
and we'll see if Zach survives. Thankfully, I made it, but it was close. Um, Now, here's what
Okay.
made B Men happen. Seven of my closest male friends in the world did it too. They all went through divorce as well in about 2 to 2.5 years. So now here's a group of guys all in their early 30s. I've been friends with some guys 5, 10, 20, 25 years since early childhood. And we think we've talked. No, we haven't. You know how men are. We talked about this deep. And suddenly we start having real conversations. Like I'm at lunch with a buddy and he literally like looks around an empty restaurant and leans in like this, like an E.F. Hutton commercial. And he's like, "Hey man, how was your sex life?" Now we've both been married for 10 years. We've
Yeah.
known each other since the eighth grade. Neither one of us have ever asked each other that question. Never.
Yeah.
And he meant it. Not, are you getting some? He meant like deeply, did you have a good sex life, a healthy sex life in your marriage? So we're suddenly having conversations that matter because that's just not how
Yeah.
men are wired. So all these guys and all these traumas, and I was like, the question that popped into my head, Kevin, was, well, shit, where do men go in our adult lives if the
Okay.
shit hits the fan? Like, where do we turn? So I start thinking about it. I'm like, I could only come up with two answers: bars,
Yep.
churches.
Yeah.
That was it. Bars are problematic for fairly obvious reasons. I don't think we have to get into that. Bottom of the bottle doesn't
Yeah.
have any good solutions. But
Okay.
churches I grew up in, churches are problematic
Okay.
for other reasons, subtle reasons. Let's say you're Catholic, you're getting divorced. There's this thing called
Okay.
excommunication. You're not really supposed to get divorced. So the family, spiritual family who loves you supposedly
You
more than
protect.
anyone else on the planet, and suddenly you're telling them I'm getting divorced from my wife and she didn't cheat on me. And they're like, Kevin, you know what? I'm sorry, we have to kick you
Yeah.
off the
That's horrible.
island. And in your time of need, you're being isolated from the people who could support you.
Yeah. That's,
Crazy. So I just Googled it,
yeah.
GTS, right? Google that stuff. I'm like, well, we'll
Yeah.
just go find something. Let's see
If
if I
I
can
may real
find it.
quick.
But
So, they did a study on how women communicate. When women communicate, their needs point, their needs point
tell
toward
me.
each other. When men communicate, our needs point away from each other. So Australia did this thing called the shed initiative,
Ah,
where they put 5 or 6 men in a shed in a
shed?
broke down lawnmower in the shed, and they put them in there. And the lawnmower pull them
That's
off, or
hilarious.
someone would grab a wrench, and then they talk about the lawnmower.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
before you know it, they were actually opening up to people. They were to each other, and they were having these
Oh,
conversations. So
wow.
I thought that was
That's
pretty interesting.
awesome.
How we're a little bit different.
That's
Yeah, we don't
super
communicate
interesting.
with each other so much like women communicate with each other. So, and that might be,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
jotting
and
some
that
notes
might
here.
be from, I dig heavy into evolutionary psychology, and that could be maybe we used to go to war
Wow.
together. So it hasn't always been natural for
Yeah.
us to show weakness next to the guy that we're going to war with, right? So
Hmm.
it could be something besides just a theory on that.
No,
So yeah,
no, those are great, man. So when I went on
yeah,
Google, I couldn't find stuff. I found lots of stuff for
yeah,
women 15 years ago. The stuff I found were men was stuff that
yeah,
you and I wouldn't want to be a part of. It was stuff like, here's how to decimate your former
yeah,
spouse in family
yeah,
court law. I'm like, oh, that sounds like anger and frustration and
yeah.
strife and combativeness. So I started talking, like I'm talking with you today, and then one thing led to another, and I opened up, and lo and behold, vulnerability is
Okay,
strength. Who teaches men that? No one. I was 40 when I figured that out. I was like, what? No, vulnerability is weakness. You never show that. Vulnerability is strength. And I would tell people my struggles, and then you would tell me
yeah,
your struggles. Or I'd tell women, and they would tell me their struggles. And suddenly, all these conversations are happening. Start having gatherings at my home. It seems like we're going to build a
okay,
divorce men support group. but no men want to sign up for that because divorce isn't a
I got
destination for men. Typically, that's a failing, a weakness, something didn't work right. That's a stopover. You don't want to stay at Divorceville for very long. This is
no.
just a weekend jaunt, and then I'm moving on. Yeah. So it gestated over the years into more of just a men's
Okay.
organization, and it's kind of got three layers to it. So we have our public-facing website,
Okay.
bmen.org. Then we have an open group community that you got invited
Yeah.
to on Facebook, right? That's grown to 800 some people. Here's an interesting thing. It's 600 men and it's
That's
200
interesting.
women,
I like that. Yeah.
isn't it? Now, here that this wasn't me. This is like, I believe in God. I'm a Christian guy, so I think
Yeah.
God guided this one. I was given a presentation at the state of Colorado about the theory of all this, and I got done, and this gal, super direct, just no nonsense lady, walked right up to me. She's like, "Zach, I love that. Don't make it a secret." I was a little confused. I'm like, "I hear your words. Can you elaborate? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Your men's group. Don't make it secretive." And then she talked enough that I caught up. I'm like, "Oh, you mean like say Masons, right? A secret society for men." She's like, "Right." I said, "Why?" She's like, "I'm the executive director of a battered women's
Okay.
shelter in Denver.
Oh,
All my staff and all my volunteers
I like
are women. And we hear about B-men, and you're having your monthly gathering. No women are invited. Nobody gets to know what's being talked about behind closed doors. I'm here to tell you, none of us assume that you're out
yeah.
to save the planet. In fact, we assume the opposite. We assume you're up to no good. You're bitching and moaning about women. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my God. I just lost half the population. I lost all the women. And I'm like, what are we going to do
Yeah, that
about
makes some
that? I
her
had no
perspective makes
answer.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was helpful. It was like a shot between the eyes. Took me like 6 months, and I was like, well, what if we let the women kind of, I was telling the guys helping me get this off the ground, like, what if we let them kind of, as my dad would
Okay.
say, window shop, but they can't sample the merchandise? Like, what do you mean, Zach? I'm like, what if they could be a part of the open group on Facebook, but when we have a monthly gathering, they can't go to
Okay.
that because that's men only. So they could see the mission, the vision, the values,
Yeah.
the postings, so that they could tell their nephew, their brother-in-law, their husband, their former husband, their dad, their son, hey, this
Yeah.
Be Men thing is some sweet stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
wonder how
that's how we
many
did it.
of them are just wives trying to get their men to. I bet that's the thing. Trying to, yeah, trying to help their men out. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. We get some of that. I'll be honest. I get some weird things on Facebook where I'm like, no, you can't sell your soft porn in our community to find a dude. That's not what
oh,
we're about. Yeah. I'm not Hugh Hefner. Um, and then we do have these men's things, right? We have a monthly thing we
okay.
call Beers, Bros, and Bucks. So think happy hour with a purpose, and we'll get together the third Wednesday, and it's just an
Okay.
opportunity for men to come. If you want to just come, sit, listen, and have a beer, cool. If you want to come and share, maybe it's your month, you want to get proactive, and then we will do bigger events like, we'll do give back events, service events, take the kids from an orphanage bowling, shave our heads for children's cancer research, or like this summit
Okay.
coming up in
Yeah.
August.
What does that summit look like? What's the
Yeah.
big
Oh man, I totally want you to be there and any of the guys that are listening into you. I think your perspective, I want to get into your side of things here as
Yeah.
fast as we can. So the Men Summit, it's the second year now. Last year was the inaugural year. Men is an acronym for Masculine
Okay.
Empowerment Network. And what we're doing, we're in Parker, Colorado. There's a place called the Schoolhouse Theater. So this quaint little, it looks like a schoolhouse outside, but they have a cool, like 200 seating theater inside and a lobby and all this. So we're going to have about 8 to 10 small business
Okay.
sponsors with services or products more catered towards men. That's going to help us put on the event. Then we're going to have a continental breakfast to launch our day. So it's an opportunity. I think networking is such an overused term. So it's an opportunity to connect, right? Whether that's a personal connection, a professional connection, see all the above, just an opportunity to meet other
Yeah,
cool guys. Then the mayor of Parker is going to say a few words to launch our day. And then we have about, a full day from about 9 to 4 of 7 to 8 speakers doing about 20 minutes of talk each time. So kind of a TEDx style
yeah,
uh, speech from different angles on male wellness. We'll do a mid-morning, mid-afternoon break. We'll do like a 75-minute lunch break so guys can connect, go to lunch together. Um, and you can tap into those sponsors, whether you're looking to get some coaching or some therapy or some car work done, or you want to register for the next B-Min event or buy a
yeah,
t-shirt
yeah.
or right. Um, and guys found it really, really powerful. And then we have a youth price. So we're setting prices like under
Okay.
$50 a ticket. And if you buy before August 1st, under $40 a ticket. And if you're a youth, we're categorizing youth as 13 to 17 teenagers. Can't come by themselves, but if you came with your uncle or your, stepdad or your dad, we're trying to encourage men to
Yes,
bring their sons or nephews, right? Or whatever, cousin,
that's
to get them
important.
early, right? Get them learning as
Yeah,
early as
I
possible.
think that's really important, and I want you to send me that link after the episode, and I can post a link if you have
Okay.
a link to that for men to sign up, and I can post that
Yeah.
with every, on the back end where I post all this stuff. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
brother. All right, so I gotta ask you some
All right, man.
questions, man. Like, why? Like, I looked at you right now. Of course, we talk
Yeah.
stereotypes. I'm like, this dude is huge, like physically, right? And then I saw a picture with like your full back tattoo. I'm like, I couldn't help but hit the
Oh yeah.
stereotype button. I'm like, so this is like the man's man, dude. Like, he's shaved head, he's burly as hell, looks like a bear. He's got a bunch of tattoos. I'm like, what the hell do you need to learn anything about being a man from me or from being men? Like he looks like he's doing great. So I'm very curious to hear kind of your story of where you been, where you going, why you're
Okay.
doing this podcast. Yeah.
I can give you the medium of it. I won't go all the way along. So I grew up in a
Okay.
system. I didn't have a lot of male role models, and so I kind of I floundered a lot earlier in my life. I was doing a lot of self-destructive stuff. And then I kind of found a spot where I settled down and I kind of figured out life to an extent. And then I got a motorcycle accident and I got my leg taken.
Oh,
So I'm an amputee. Yes.
oh
I'm a below
shit.
the knee right amputee. And I was in a 6-year marriage at the time and it just went, I had
Okay.
some bros. And I talk about this a lot. I had some bros that I had gathered. I had these men, this everybody was really
Yeah.
good about opening the door, moving furniture, but no one asked me if I was okay. And I didn't know how to express that I wasn't. So I hadn't been taught any kind of emotional outlet. As far as I was concerned at the time, mental health, they just don't go together. We just suck it up, we keep moving. Well, I self-destructed, burned my whole world down. Drugs,
Mm.
alcohol, uh, got into a divorce and clung onto a woman and ruined her life for a year and a half. So
Mm.
I literally
Mm.
just burnt the world down around me. And then I realized I woke up one morning and realized no one's going to help. No one's coming to save me. No one's going to help me. So
Mm.
what do I
Mm.
do? Because I know it starts right here. So what do I do? And so I started watching some podcasts. And I started, and I go down a red pill thing for a while. I don't know if you know what red pills. It kind
Mm.
of showed me,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
like Meg Tao. You talking about Meg Tao?
yeah,
Men going
yeah.
their own
And
way?
so, and
Yeah.
that kind of steered me in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So I just found, I kind of found this groove where I wanted to work on myself, but at the same time, with everything that happened with me wrecking my marriage after I lost, the marriage I was in when I lost my leg was already, I had no idea how bad it was. But then I married another woman and
Okay.
just wrecked that marriage. just totally
Okay.
drug her down into my hole with me.
Uh,
And I realized that we, no matter
uh,
what anyone tries to say, we lead. And that's what we do. We lead. We set the tone for
mhm.
our relationship, lead in our community. And
Yeah.
and seeing what I did to the world for a little while, I realized what can someone do to the world if they have their shit together? If they, yeah,
Great question.
I kind of do a 180. It took me a while to climb out of my hole. It took me a while, and then
Okay.
I started realizing, that with what I had been through, when men struggle, women suffer the most. And it seems to be this lost thing where we don't
Hmm.
take a look at that, and we don't. No one seems to take a look at that. But if we can fix men, if we can build better men, we will have better families, we will have a better community, we will have better and more stable kids, more stable relationships in our life. And that's been the path that I've been on. I've been on a path to kind of bring men and women together. I've been on a path
Hmm.
to call, kind of just shine light on the mental health problem we have. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
my thing.
God,
Yeah.
good for you, man. When was your accident and when did you make your 180?
February 20, February 2020, February 22nd of 2020, I got in the accident.
Whoa, what's about the number
But
two?
then,
Holy cow.
yeah, then
222
I believe it was
2020?
Actually March 2nd, I told him to cut my leg off because it was arteries failing. There was no stuff
Oh,
going on.
wow.
And then I wanted to feel desperate. I just wanted to feel accepted. So I clung onto whoever I could.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was at. I didn't know how to walk forward. I didn't know who I was, this new guy without a limb. And so I did everything. I
Mm.
clung to women. I just clung to everything I could to try to have someone say they accepted me. But the road I was going down,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't accepting myself. So I'm going down the road and I
Uh,
just keep
uh,
self-destructing. And the further I self-destruct, the further I hate myself. So there had to come a
ugh.
time where I say, you know what, something has to change, and I keep trying to change, and I keep trying to figure life out at the stage that I'm in, but I'm still fucking it up. I'm still just sitting there fucking it up. And it just and I like what you said earlier, we can plant a flower, we can plant a garden, but we have to pull weeds for
Mhm.
the rest of our lives. We can we can, yeah, like,
Oh,
and
amen.
every once in a while, I'll think
Shit.
about it, and I'll be like, "You know what? I start to slip into old habits of thinking, and I say, all right, it's time to pull weeds. It's time to, work on myself."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of it, so I'll get on video and I'll
Man.
show vulnerability. I'm like, God, I'm having a hard time with self-confidence right now. And this is the way I'm reacting. And it's kind of like this model, like, look, here's this. And I don't know if it's receptive better when you're got muscles and tattoos, than so, I'll make videos every once in a while. Where I'm like, God, I'm having a hard time as a man right now.
Yeah.
My self confidence is going to hell. That's how I'm trying to handle
Yeah.
just to try to set some sort of a set some s- just to be an example for somebody. Like, look, it's okay. I didn't die. I feel better. I
That's
didn't
awesome.
die. Nobody, So
Yeah.
that's kind of my medium long story, and it's gonna keep going.
Well, brother, if you need some validation, I don't know where you're at in your life right this moment, but damn, that is a motivating and
Yeah,
inspiring story
I,
because there are plenty of guys who would have partially or fully just checked it at the door,
yeah,
right? That there are guys that having gone through that would have just said, I'm out. Like literally out. I'm gonna take
yeah,
myself out. Or there's guys that they wouldn't be all the way out, but they certainly wouldn't
yeah,
come back. And you've seen those guys. Like I say, it's like looking, they say, the eyes are the windows to your soul. And I could sit with a guy over a beer or a cup of coffee and just want to ask him, okay, when did
yeah.
you check it in? because you're here physically, but I'm looking in your eyes and I can tell
You
you're
heard? Have
you're
you
out.
heard?
So
So
when
Benjamin
was that?
Franklin said, "Men die at 30 and are buried at 80." And so I think so. There's this thing where we all are going to go through crap as men, right? And it's
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's been around for a long time, and a lot of us don't know how to handle it. And I try to, we don't
yeah,
know. Like it just beats people. It beats men down, and it breaks my heart. So
yeah,
I've got a
sure.
very big soft spot for men.
Yeah. Well, and here's the reality too, because you kind of alluded to that. You're like, I don't know, this is what I'm
Yeah,
doing. I hope it resonates. You're destroying myths, brother.
yeah,
Actively destroying myths. Because I promise you, I'm not the only man to take one look at you and go,
yeah,
oh shit. The size of you, the bald head,
yeah,
the tattoos, like the immediate stereotype
yeah.
assumptions. And, we shouldn't
Oh,
assume, but look, we all do. The immediate things that come to
we,
mind are like
yeah,
MMA fighter, athlete, formerly incarcerated. Like these are some of the things that start ringing true. And the other thing, just about like maleness, that dude struggles.
yeah,
Because I'm sure when you're doing your videos, people can't see your legs.
yeah.
Like I didn't
Yeah, just
know. That was news
kicking
to
off.
me.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of power in your story and what you're doing because of how people would stereotypically
Thank you.
perceive you. They look at a guy like you and say, he could
Yeah,
never feel weak because he's
yeah,
obviously not weak. And he puts on, the way he looks and the way his head shaved and the tattoo, like he just looks like a
yeah.
raging beast, you
And it,
know?
and it may be actually receptive better. I've been working on the theory. I've been working on a couple theories. All right, so I think our ego and our
Okay.
self confidence cannot exist in the same spot. So I think as men, we are either leading with our ego or we're leading with our self confidence, and I think we have to be very careful of leading with our ego because I think that's where a lot of times we go down the wrong road and we become more destructive. So I've been trying to figure out ways to
Yeah.
kill your ego and build your self confidence, and I so far have not figured it out yet. But I'm doing personal experiments to try to.
I mean, here's what I've been telling guys for 15 years and see if this resonates. So I went to school in Colorado Springs, Colorado College, a liberal arts school, got an economics degree. But one thing I got taught at a liberal arts school was speaking in analogies or metaphors. So the thought process, if I tell you this little story, but it paints a
Yeah.
picture in your mind. Now it's your picture. It's whatever you decide to draw in your
Okay.
mind from what I'm saying. You're going to remember the image in your head long after you forget whatever words I
Yes.
spat out of my mouth. So, so my analogy for this is the coin
Okay.
metaphor. Again, I'm going back to
Yeah.
simplistic stuff. Coins have how many sides? Two. There's only two to choose from. First side of the coin
Okay.
is awareness. That's the first job or the first step. If you don't have awareness, you are that dude. You are the bull in the china shop crashing through life, to use your words,
Yeah.
burning down your world. So anyone close to you, spouse, children, relatives, they're going to feel it too. Get too close to the fire, you get burned. Get too close to the bull charging through all the
Yeah.
glass, you're going to get shards. Once you have awareness, that's the first step. Okay,
Okay.
we're halfway home. But the second step's even harder because you got to flip the coin over. And the opposite side of awareness is
Okay.
action. What are you prepared to do with your newfound awareness? Like the Matrix, are you going to go
Yeah.
back to sleep? Okay, I'm aware. I'm an asshole. I'm going back to bed. I'm going to use nicotine, opioids, alcohol, work, sex, porn. I mean, we're inventing new
Yeah.
ways to zone
And to
out
bury it.
mentally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally. Or are you going to make the hard choice, to use your words, and start pulling weeds? But then start to find out you're a gardener for the rest of your life. You got to wear it 22, you got to wear it 32, you got to wear it 42, and you're going to
Yeah.
die at 85. You have decades
Yeah.
of choosing. moment by moment, day by day, week by week, year by year. Do I go back to bed? Do I go back to being unaware? Or do I
Yeah,
keep on
I
keeping
like
on?
that, and I think you live a certain amount of your life. Your body strives for homeostasis, and so does your brain. It likes to stay the same, and you feel it creeping on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've
Mm-hmm.
lived 30, 40 years, even 25 years, being a certain way, being that bull in the china shop, being that you can it's a like you said, it's the rest of your life thing. You're not going to have, you can't take time off from that. You just need to keep doing it. I think that's what saves society. I think that's what saves our next generation. I started a squat party at the gym on Saturdays for men. We would squat for a whole hour straight. And it was just
Okay.
going back. What did we used to do? We used
Wow.
to go to war together. We used to hunt together. Now, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
We're doing nothing together.
Yeah.
So I,
Yeah.
I get,
Right. It's
I bring
crazy.
these men, and at one time we had 5 or 6 men, and we had a 14-year-old boy show up. And so we've got this 14-year-old kid with
Nice.
his dad
Nice.
showing up and just going through it with us. And we're hugging each other and we're pushing weight. And, it's just like, I think that's what we as men need to get back to is we need to get back to that camaraderie. We need to get back. I said before the episode started that a lot of times we're treated like dysfunctional women. And, but we operate different psychologically than women. We communicate differently.
Hmm.
And I think a big part of that is we need to be physical. We need to work. We need to work our bodies. I think that, you've got, and I'm going to go off on a rant here. So you've got
No,
a
go ahead,
nerve
man.
going
It's
from
your
your brain
show.
to your body. It's called the vagus nerve. Um, so
Yeah. Okay.
I believe it is 10% of that information goes from your brain to your body. The other 90% goes from your body to
Okay.
your brain. So I am a firm believer that
Mm.
everything starts with your body. You start working your body, and like everything starts there. And I think as men, we need to do that. We need to have a mission. We need to have purpose. Um, we need to produce more than we consume. We need to, because it used to be this valued
Yes.
thing back when we
Yes.
were hunter gatherers. Is the high status man shared with everybody? He didn't just get, like, it's not like the way you
Yeah.
see it. It wasn't where we're just raping and pillaging. No,
No.
the alpha male back then, he got the biggest hunt, the biggest kill, but then he brought it to the village and fed the whole village. And I think we're just missing out on a lot of that.
Right. Right.
So
I totally agree. So like we've done, say like the Thanksgiving event, um, Daddy Bruce started feeding families in
okay,
Northeast Denver decades and decades ago. And so they'll do like something like 10,000 boxes of food, feed 40,000 people. So you could go,
yeah,
and I could go, and another guy could go. There's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. You figured out a give back. You go down, spend a couple hours, volunteer, throw some frozen turkeys in a box. Or we all go. We did it one year. It was 30 degrees. It was freezing cold. You're standing in the middle of a street because that's where they set up the conveyors. They have pallets of food. So there's literally these pallets with 20-pound frozen turkeys, which is basically like a bowling ball. And we have 10 of us. So we have 5 guys on each side. And what did it become? Instantaneously, it became a game and an
yeah,
exercise in who could win. And the who could win was which team of five could offload more frozen turkeys, like 20-pound bowling balls, and
yeah,
not lose a
yeah.
finger or a toe, right? And then the losing team would have to buy the winning team lunch. And it was a blast. And nobody even remembered that it was freezing
That's
freaking
men.
cold
Yeah,
because we were having fun.
that's men being men. That's the way we operate. That's what we push
Yeah,
each other.
totally.
We push each other. I
Yeah.
did this post earlier before we
Hmm.
close out. I did a post earlier. I did a short video,
Yeah.
and I like to post them TikTok, YouTube, stuff like that. The importance of having men around you who hold you accountable, not yes men, not men that I kind of fell off the gym a couple times last week. My workout partner has really been on me. He
Okay.
texted me this morning and said, "Hey, you're up, right? You're up, and you're on the way to the fuck gym." So I think it's important, and that's how men elevate their game. is we surround ourselves with
Yeah.
decent, like-minded men, and not men that are just going to agree with whatever we say. You know, a lot of that is men that are going to challenge you, men that are gonna hold
Hmm.
us accountable, and I think we're meant to do that for each other. So, yeah,
I agree. We call them like
okay,
2 a.m.
yeah,
guys, right? Or think of like you said, military, like band of brothers. You got to have some guys that if you texted them at 2 a.m.,
yeah,
A, they'll answer, and B, if you were in
yeah,
need, they'll come. And to your point, tough love, you can't have guys who are watching you
yeah,
burn it
no,
down again
yeah,
out of drugs or whatever, or you have a dysfunctional girlfriend. You haven't can't have guys who
yeah,
turn the other way. You gotta have at least one guy who walks up into your face, and even a big guy like you, and if you hit me, it's gonna hurt, and say, Kevin,
yeah,
she's not good for you.
yeah.
What are
You're
you
fucking
doing?
up again. Yeah, that's what we do for that's what we do for each other. And we're losing that art, man.
Oh,
We're losing that art. So I want to.
yeah. I'm so
Yeah,
glad to
this is
meet you,
good. I've
brother.
got your number. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, and I want to check out your. I want to check out that summit. So send me the link, and I would like to check
Okay,
it out. And I'm gonna spread it
you got
around
it.
because I'm big on this. I want to. I love
We appreciate it. We had 50 guys attend last year. We're trying to
good.
hit 100 this year. We're still looking for three small businesses to
Okay.
be table sponsors. So we got a title sponsor and a few others. But yeah, I'll shoot you the link. And then also, I would love for you or any of the men that are connected to you to come next month to our monthly gathering, right? So we'll have that the third week of July, and then we'll have the summit in August. So, we love meeting guys, man.
Yeah,
We all have a
let's
heart
let's
for
talk
men.
about that. Let's talk about that after we wrap this up and I get back in on this episode going. And I really, really, really appreciate you being on my podcast. It's an honor. I love what you're doing. I love your story, how it started, and I looked into a lot of your stuff on YouTube, and I like the videos. I like what you guys are talking about. I like what you're doing. I like the testimonials. It seems, I mean, this is what we need in this fucking world, and I don't think there are not
Thanks,
enough
brother.
people doing this. There are not enough men standing up and doing this for each other. So I really appreciate it, brother. All right, man. You have a good
Thanks.
night.
You too.